Hello and welcome to another standard video here in the preview event for Ninja Turtles. Today we're checking out this white, black and blue or esper colored ninja deck, which is essentially just splashing blue for Kaito, Bane of Nightmares, already a standard staple, and gets even better in this deck as we get to take full advantage of the +1 emblem that gives our ninjas +1/+1. The 0 ability provides card advantage and the -2 additional removal where needed. And then our deck is very good at setting up ninjutsu and the new sneak mechanic, as we have 10 of these 1 mana evasive creatures, starting out with a few honorary ninjas. Dream Beaver's one of the few non-ninjas in the deck, but still has plenty of synergy, as we get to make the opponent lose a life while we gain a life when it enters, and we also scry 1, so that's perfect for digging towards some of our action cards or whatever else we're missing. And then by picking up the beavers with Sneak and Ninjutsu, we'll get to replay it, triggering it once again. Same with Momo Playful Pets, which when it leaves the battlefield lets us either make a food, get a +1 counter on target creature we control, or scry 2, and then a 1/1 Flying Vigilant can chip in for a bit of damage, but mostly is going to be used to set up Sneak and Ninjutsu. Then we also have 2 copies of the Prehistoric Pet as a Dinosaur Ninja, so it also picks up all those ninja synergies. It cannot be blocked by creatures with a greater power. So there are some situations where the pet may not be able to attack. Let's say the opponent has their own 1 mana 1/2, or maybe we were on the draw and they play a 2 mana 1/3 like Voice of Victory. Then the pet may not get an attack in to set up Sneak. Otherwise it's still decent and of course has the additional ninja synergies. And occasionally we can also activate its ability in the late game to maybe return some of our permanents. Can be a way to maybe re-trigger Dream Beavers to drain the opponent out. And then we also have 2 copies of Leonardo, Leader in Blue, a 2/1 that for 1 and a white can gain first strike until end of turn. So that means that most opposing creatures that the opponent can play on turns 1 or 2 are not going to be able to block Leonardo profitably. So then we can use the threat of activation of first strike to still maybe sneak something into play. And then later we could still sneak it for 5 mana, and then if it enters, creatures we control get 2 additional power until end of turn. So that's another nice finisher. And then at 2 mana we get to some of our sneak cards, which we can sometimes sneak for just a single white mana, so return an unblocked attacker we control back to hand. And then Leonardo Cutting Edge, a 1/1 lifelinker that can pick up an additional +1 counter whenever we gain life, so that's immediately going to connect for 1, pick up a counter, and we can still enable it with some of our other life gain effects, such as maybe the food token from Momo or the trigger from Dream Beavers, especially a great way to grow Leonardo. Then there's Splinter, which we can also sneak for just a single black this time, a 1/3 menace giving other ninjas we control +1/+1. So combined with Kaito, we have 8 of these anthem effects for ninjas, and of course Kaito can produce multiple emblems. And then Dark Leo and Shredder is another card that can punish the opponent for blocking, as we can sneak it into play for 2 mana, and then attacking ninjas we control have Death Touch. So as long as one of our unblocked ninjas can sneak Dark Leo into play, any other ninjas that might be blocked can now also have Death Touch and maybe trade up for larger creatures. And if Dark Leo connects, we also get to create a 1/1 black ninja creature token, at which point, if we control 5 or more ninjas, the opponent loses half their life total rounded up, and you would be surprised at how often we can enable this ability and how relevant it can be. So yeah, Dark Leo, another card that can be very powerful. I'm also trying 1 copy of Super Shredder, which is probably going to be more powerful in older formats where fetch lands are more commonplace, as a 1/1 with Menace, saying whenever another permanent leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So this can grow from just picking up our own creatures with a sneak ability, but also if creatures trade or if we remove an opposing creature, the Shredder will grow, so it can grow into a pretty substantial threat. And then we also have the full set of the Last Ronin's Technique, which we can sneak for just 1 and a white, otherwise a 4 mana instant, to create 3 1/1 white Ninja Turtle Spirit creature tokens. So if we can sneak it into play, those tokens enter tapped and attacking, so that's a lot of surprise damage, especially if we have multiple anthems between Splinter and Kaito in play, so do not underestimate those 1/1 tokens. And then rounding out the deck, we have some additional removal. Requiting Hex can also occasionally gain life to help grow Leonardo, and is just an efficient removal spell. Tragic Trajectory also has good synergy with the sneak mechanic, since picking up a creature enables Void to take out something larger. And then we have Shoot the Sheriff at instant speed as well. Of course, interaction can easily be swapped out depending on the matchup, so if you were trying this in best of 3, you could also run a few counter spells in the sideboard, and then against control decks you can swap out your spot removal with counter spells, and then the deck is going to function in a very similar fashion. The mana base is definitely geared towards these 1 mana enablers, so if you do want to try something like a Spyglass Siren instead, you'll probably have to adjust the mana base slightly, because all our Verge lands, the Bleachbone and the Flood Farm, all produce either white or black to start out, which is perfect for setting up our various 1 mana enablers. And then the only blue sources are for Kaito, so those can come later, and we don't need to enable the Flood Farm Verge right away. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw with a fine hand. Got our 1 mana Sneak Enabler. Some payoffs, and Kaito would be great to get down. So we'll see how things line up. Cavern on Human. So, prehistoric pets. Next turn we could sneak in Leonardo and then replay the pet to kind of set up Kaito. The Roof Skippers from our opponents. 2/2 flyer during their turn. Now Dreambeaver's also an option. Yeah, kind of like a Leonardo into Dreambeavers. And this will grow once again. A land 5 is not needed. And then if they don't have a flyer on defense, can start with Kaito. And then the emblem sets up the technique quite nicely. So when it leaves, they get a token. But no sneaking that turn. Voice of Victory. Could also block the prehistoric pets. And our opponent's gonna use Enweb, another way to pick up your stuff. And names Planeswalker. Now this doesn't affect ninjutsu, it would affect sneak, so that's an important distinction. So this turn we can still attack. Opponent trades. And I think I still like Kaito here.
I've always just in time to save the day.
Now if I make an emblem, just gotta hope they don't have some sort of anthem effect. But just getting the emblem in place seems worthwhile. And then we just need to enable the technique. And this will draw cards when spiders enter. Kaito survives. And our opponent's gonna unweb a 3/3. And Fate Weaver's next. So definitely a Spider-Man coded deck so far. Kaito can just make another emblem. Could hardcast a technique. And then make a bunch of 3/3s at instant speed, or we can just get our cheaper flyers in play. And then still probably sneak next turn. Leonardo, probably not all that exciting after I deploy the beavers. I guess we did now also enable Kaito's draw ability. So I could still draw into Leonardo, cast it, and play beavers. Maybe that's good enough.
My eyes are as sharp
So that's another cool interaction. Get rid of some lanes. And then they want to trade for Fate Weaver. We'll see how aggressive they get. They do want to get rid of Kaito. Fate Weaver goes face. So yeah, there's no realistic way for me to save Kaito. Can try and take out the voice, and then... do we trade for Fate Weaver? Don't hate it. Yeah, opponent's gonna sneak in Michelangelo's technique, kind of a collected company. And they found a backup voice, as well as the improviser. Another sneak payoff. So Kaito down. I do get to last Ronin here if I'd like, and Beavers grows Leonardo before attacks. Splinter seems reasonable. So we know most of our opponent's hand. And does Leonardo even bother attacking? Kind of like it on defense here. Opponent falls to 3. And play the pet, which can also maybe pick up the beavers to get those last points in. So yeah, a lot of neat little synergies that may not be apparent at first glance. Opponent says good game. I guess they don't have any flying or reach creatures that can get in the way. A redraw can maybe help. Alright, they did find a Fate Weaver. So, what are we looking at here? An all-out attack still seems reasonable to me. Maybe keep a Leonardo back since it trades for Fate Weaver. Although if that's the case, then we've got an extra Dreambeaver attacking and connecting. Question is whether Prehistoric Pet wants to get busy. Yeah, they can just block it with a voice. And this seems fine. And then Splinter pumping our ninjas. Could get the job done. Alright, sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. Our hand seems fine. Got an early enabler, good mana, and some nice payoffs. Start with our beavers. Could use a third land. Kaito is difficult to turn down. I'll try it. Maybe next turn I can sneak in Leonardo, replay beavers, look for land 3. Opponent on the artifact deck, gonna save the Requiting Hex for now. And then I don't mind Leonardo, Dark Leo is also an option. But I kinda wanna have my sneak enabler back in play if possible. And then we'll immediately grow Leonardo with the beavers gaining a life once again. And there's our third land, perfect. So we're off to a good start. The Ravenous Robots is the card that I wanted to save my Hex for. So we'll get to play it here. And then Dark Leo looks good too. See if they want a double block, we can punish that. They do not. Yeah, I think I still like double spelling here. And then take out the Ravenous Robots without blinding. Although, I guess, never mind, I should have blinded, since if I remove a counter from Leonardo, I'll get one back, so I could have just gained 2 life for free, actually. Snare will exile it. Alright, so next up, I can still attack, and then Ninjutsu Kaito, replay the beavers. That looks good.
Let's give it our all. Ha!
Make a ninja.
Dramatic entrance.
See what's on top and then decide what to do with Kaito. I think I want to draw an extra card. Maybe an external make an emblem,
My eyes are as sharp
and especially with the technique coming up. Opponent's got a second robots and a nesting bot, so a bunch of blockers on the ground now. Still have beavers to fly over. And we'll make an emblem. And go to attackers.
the best.
Send in everyone. No blocks from our opponents. Sneak picking up the beavers. And we can sneak this one too. And that'll do it. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, missing black mana. Can still cast Prehistoric Pets, turn to Technique. But without black mana, my hand's not going to be too exciting. 2 draw steps basically to get there. I think I still try it. Blue is the color we have the least, so more likely to find a black source along the way. And maybe an equipment deck over here. Alright, found the Verge, so yeah, that could enable Dark Leo already if we'd like. Could have also started with a technique and then use Dark Leo to maybe punish a block from a larger creature. But since we're somewhat limited in black mana, this could work out better if we draw another black 1-drop, like maybe a Dream Beavers. But yeah, Kaito still seems like the play. And hope there's no scary equipment incoming, since they will be able to attach those. Unless we maybe lock down Raban with Kaito, which is also a possibility. Could also go Beavers and then Technique. I think the sooner we get Kaito down, the better.
Watch closely. You don't worry, Pom-Pom-chan. I've got this.
Yeah, maybe I should lock this down. Is that our emblem? What 3-mana equipment can they have? Yeah, just having the emblem is still quite valuable, especially with the technique in hand.
Dark.
So we'll try this. Freya flies anyway, so that can attack past our ninjas for now. I see Chainsaw. So that will be 1 additional power. Still 1 short of taking out Kaito. Alright, so we get to make another emblem, which has to be the play. And then want to make sure I get more ninjas in play if possible to enable Dark Leo. So we have 2. This will be adding 3. Because I can pick up Kaito as well. So then if I play the pets, I can attack. And then sneak, picking up Kaito. So we actually make them lose half of their life total. And when you're at 1, that means you're dead. Awesome, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. 4 lands is a bit much, so hopefully we don't draw too many more. But I do get to use the beavers to get rid of them, and then, yeah, despite kind of our low curve, by picking up the beavers again multiple times with sneak, we get to make use of all our mana. Opponent also on a ninja deck. So the hope is to next turn sneak in Leonardo, replay beavers, which also triggers it. And then Dark Leo should be useful. Just a prehistoric pet, take 2. Do we want a 1-mana Leonardo? Not particularly. Even though the first strike ability can be pretty sweet with Dark Leo, first strike plus Death Touch. But a Kaito or the last Ronin would still be preferable. A Nashi is acceptable. Could trade, but I think we want a Sneak Enabler. Alright, so can attack, sneak in Dark Leo, and then replay the beavers once again. And then after going wide, Splinter's going to be a bit more appealing as well. Do want to keep an eye on our ninja count to make sure we don't miss the second ability. And there's the technique. Keep that one. Can even clear a path for our creatures with Shoot the Sheriff and still cast it. But that plus Splinter is also pretty decent. Our opponent hasn't had a chance yet to sneak anything into play. We'll see if that's about to change. Just Nashi getting in for 2. Mills 2 lanes. And they keep up 4 mana. So what could this be? Maybe their own technique that they didn't want to sneak? Yeah, I think we still go for an attack. First strike only relevant against a ninja, which is fine. The pet they can only activate in their turn. And double block Dark Leo. Okay, so technique on beavers. And then I could technically shoot the sheriff, the pet, and then not even lose Dark Leo. Or I can just go for Splinter, and assuming no removal, pumping up Dark Leo still means it survives. But yeah, if they have nothing, they just die. Alright, sweet. I guess that worked out. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a reasonable hand, a bit heavy on the lands perhaps. So hoping to scry into something substantial. And can start here. Technique seems decent. Yeah, all the Verge lands in this deck either produce white or black to cast our various enablers, since we do not have any blue ones in the deck. So, against blue-red, I think we get Dark Leo going. Could get punished by Spell Snare, I guess. Which is where the technique would not be able to get spell snared. Opponent on the artifact deck. Into Springleaf Drum. Yeah, making a flying drone would have been a good blocker for some of our other enablers. 0 mana walker just to make a drone. And the droid. Well, at least these don't block our ground creatures, but yeah, opponent amassed a pretty nice army for some of their potential affinity payoffs. So this turn I can hex the droid so they can't jump Dark Leo, reduce their affinity count, and then what else? Could consider the technique, and then would already have 5 ninjas in play. And it seems appealing actually. Since we get 3 and then 1 more. So opponent's all the way down to 7. And now the 1 damage from beavers is also much more threatening. But yeah, opponent still had enough to cast the Mastermind. Only drawing 2 cards at least. And Kaito was quite a draw as well. So can just tap down Krang with Kaito. And then attack all out. Making an emblem's also reasonable. But yeah, opponent's just dead, despite a pretty impressive start. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a decent hand. Can play Momo turn 1. Enables our various ninjas. Can sneak Splinter, replay Momo. And set up Kaito. Opponent on a Bantermole deck. Could shoot the Sheriff. I think I save it for whatever they're ramping into. But yeah, famous last words as they say. And then we'll scry 2. Bottom those lanes. Momo's back. It's going to be a specialist, so an artifact sacrifice deck. And Michelangelo. More of a +1 counter card. So they might be playing the mutagen man that helps discount these artifacts. Picked up the technique, so that's decent. So we can go to attackers and see how they want to block. Splinter has Menace. Alright, so Kaito, pick up Momo versus Technique. Technique's gonna be more impactful if I can make a couple emblems first. But if I Technique, I can replay Momo, which sets up my ninja for next turn. So we'll try this. And then now I kind of like a +1 counter on Splinter a bit more. Can always cast Kaito before attacking to make an emblem. And yep, there's the Mutagen Man right on cue. So they can sack this for 1 mana and these for 0 mana. Dealing a bunch of damage with a Specialist. So yeah, that was pretty much their ideal curve. But I do survive. Can jump Michelangelo, take 7. And then can I present a lethal on the way back? If I put a +1 counter on Splinter, that's 3 points essentially at 8. Then Kaito would be another 3 + 4, 7. So it might be 1 short. 3 + 6 is 9. Still seems like the play. Found a land. So I can hardcast Kaito. If I tap this down, I get in for 9. If I make an emblem, they can jump and take 10, fall to 1. So just a little bit short here. If I ninjutsu Kaito, they'll have blocked 2/2, so then I still get in for a 9, put my opponent to 2, and I don't think there's anything I can draw into. And if I stay back, I'm just dying to the Specialist, so I would have to shoot it. Opponent still has 4 attackers. I guess I'm not just dead. But it's not looking good either. And a pizza can go face. Alright, I mean, there's worse ways to go out than a pizza to the face, I guess. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. This hand's reasonable, still need a way to enable the Verge for Kaito. But we have Leonardo as our enabler. Another Leonardo as a payoff, or we can get the technique down. Upside of Leonardo is that I can replay the other Leonardo. I know things are confusing, everything's got the same name. Opponent with a Burst Lightning, so... yeah, if they've got another removal spell, I might struggle to get my sneak cards going. Opponent blue-red. Artifacts. So yeah, trajectory a little bit short of dealing with the Chrome Dome. So Momo it is. With a land next turn I could maybe technique and then trajectory the Chrome Dome. And there's another one. The Hex can deal with 1, but then we're not sneaking anything into play, of course. I guess it's still fine, just deal with the Dome, get an attack in. Because if I do sneak, I also don't get to replay Momo, so then I cannot set up Kaito as easily. More cheap artifact creatures. Could see some of the affinity payoffs soon. Cannot block the Ginger Brute, so we'll take it. Alright, there's our mana for Kaito, potentially. Or we can technique, and then still trajectory the Chrome Dome, if that's what we prefer. Let's see, Momo can also then put a counter on Leonardo. So I think that works out pretty well. Slow down their affinity synergies. Alright, the arsenal is a scary one, essentially a cranial plating. So the fewer artifacts they have, the better. And our opponent's going to play defense, which kind of plays into Kaito now. Can either make an emblem. I mean, I can also just send in all the 1/1s and sneak it into play. And then still make an emblem. Second main, play Momo. Don't hate that idea. Opponent's down to 3 as well.
I've got this. Just try to keep up.
And there's Krang. Possible they had another one in hand that they were struggling to deploy. And yeah, opponent's just too far behind on board. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. We have Enabler, Sneak card, more payoffs, some interaction. It's a decent hand. If the pet gets removed, I don't have a great follow-up. And yeah, opponent's got the answer. Alright, Momo was a decent draw. So then I can still maybe set up Kaito next turn. Opponent ramps. Because most of our Author Sneak cards we can still cast for 2 mana, but these are kind of the exception. And Dark Leo is good too, but I think I'm still leaning Kaito. Upside of Dark Leo is that I can still replay Momo. But if our opponent's kind of a rampy control deck, a Planeswalker in play is a bit more valuable than a bunch of creatures. So yeah, not really interested in any of these.
Don't be jealous of my
I do want to surveil and draw, I think. Emblem's also tempting, but can maybe go for it next turn. And then I don't know if Shoot the Sheriff is what I need. Can always tap things down with Kaito. An extra copy of Kaito could be insurance in case they remove it. We want Splinter to maybe pump up our ninjas. It's gonna be a Mutagen Man for 0 into an Innkeeper's Talent. Well, I can still hex it and pay the ward. So that works out. And then I'll have 2 mana left over. So then I suppose I can play Dark Leo normally. Yeah, that seems fine. And I can make some emblems now.
Never underestimate my skills.
Ouroboros, pretty good with the talents. We'll still have Death Touch when attacking. So, should still be fine. Could also tap it down, pay the ward. and then cast most of our spells. Is that better than going for another emblem, giving ninjas +2/+2? Don't necessarily want to pick this up with Technique. Although I could Technique and then still Dark Leo afterwards, actually. So, sure.
Take a break, will ya?
So it's going to be a double sneak. Which also nets us an extra ninja. And since we now have 5 ninjas in play, our opponent dies to the trigger. Awesome, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have 2 enablers, 1 payoff, so still need to dig towards more finishers, but we'll give it a try. And then I think Dream Beavers is the card I want to pick up, so we can start there. Another Technique isn't bad. Now we're just looking for Kaito or Splinter to pump them up. Opponent maybe on the Artifact deck. So, yeah, we'll set up the Technique. And then next turn we can maybe play a bunch of 1-drops, especially if they play the robot on 2. Yep. So that lines up. Kaito not a bad draw, but I really need to deal with the robots before it gets out of hand, since that card cannot be underestimated. And then we pretty much have everything we need. Dark Leo is not bad either. And Gunship is next. So Kaito versus Dark Leo. This would give us 5 ninjas, so it would hit for 4. And then they're at 8, they lose half their life, they go down to 4. I guess we even get an extra counter. Yeah, that might actually be better than Kaito. I mean, both are excellent. And then I want to make sure to leave white mana up. So our opponent's at 3. And the Hedron Archive is not gonna cut it here. Alright, and that'll do it. Awesome. So yeah, we got to see this Esper Ninjas deck in action, and I'm quite pleased with the results. Even some of the non-ninja creatures still have excellent synergy throughout, the Beavers and Momo. We have just enough removal where we can keep up with other creature strategies, and then Kaito, of course, a huge boon for the archetype, giving us a win condition that doesn't get swept up by a board wipe, gives us card advantage, removal, and of course a powerful Anthem effect that we get to take advantage of. And then the multitude of sneak cards make it very tricky for the opponent to set up profitable blocks. So yeah, unless they can take out your enablers one by one, it's also not the easiest deck for opponents to answer. But yeah, for now, I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.